Hi everyone, I am Laura Madden. I'm the Welsh Government Lead on the ADARC project. ADARC standing for Administrative Data Agricultural Research Collection. I'm very sorry, by the way, I am going to be looking over here at my other screen. I am obviously looking that way. And the theme of my talk today is linking individual, household and farm business data for research on farming households. So just as a little bit of an overview of what I'm going to be speaking about, I'll speak about ADARC as a project and the ADARC dataset that comes along with that's being created by the team. Then I'm going to speak about a specific piece of research that has been conducted by the team, so the methodology behind the research and key findings from that research, as well as plans for the future of ADARC that all fall within the theme of today's talk. So just to introduce it a little bit, ADARC is a UK-wide project led by ADR Wales. I won't speak too much about ADR Wales because Ian has done a very good job of that before me. So ADARC links farm business data with personal data for farming individuals and households at population level to conduct research. And more specifically, for the research I'm going to be speaking about today, the 2011 census population was used as a basis for our linkage. ADARC brings together data linkage and agricultural researchers with policymakers and stakeholders. So I'll be speaking specifically about research conducted in Wales with a lot of the team based in Swansea University and Welsh Government. And as a result of the research I'm just about to speak about, we were able to provide evidence to policymakers to help inform their decision making. So just a little bit on the background of sort of why we decided to put this project together. In Wales, farming accounts for 88% of land use, obviously a huge proportion of the land use there, and 4.1% of employment, which is higher than the UK national average of 1.4%. The farming cohort that we examined represents a group with high policy relevance as they constitute the majority of recipients for annual subsidies worth more than £200 million, and that was in 2022. Existing statistics indicate that the majority of principal farmers are male, so that's 83% of principal farmers. However, a survey of UK farms found that female household or family members play an important role in farm businesses too, contributing to decision making, for example, and farm labour and so on. But as I said, little existing literature describing the structure of farming households. So we wanted to address the lack of existing literature into the structure of farming households, and conducted some research which led to us publishing an ADR data insight in 2023. So the overall aim of the ADARC project is to create a research-ready data set that integrates the human dimension of farming with data on farming activities to better understand the demographic, health, education, and economic characteristics of farm households associated with different types and sizes of farm businesses. But for the specific research I'm going to be speaking about today, the research objective was to describe the structure of farming households in Wales compared to other non-farming rural households. So we use the ADARC dataset, which is held in the Sale Databank and is comprised of rural payments data. So that includes information about subsidies and the claimants of those subsidies. So for example, the type of subsidy being claimed and the value of the subsidy. Also data from the Census of Population 2011, so that's at both an individual level and a household level. Welsh Demographic Survey data, which sort of filled in anything that we didn't have from the Census of Population. And then the EU Farm Structure Survey 2010, which included farm business data such as crop area, livestock numbers, and labour. From the ADUC dataset, we selected the farming cohort by linking households in Wales to farm businesses claiming under the single payment scheme in 2010, which is a subsidy scheme. And this included information, the cohort, sorry, included information about all members of the household. So that's both adults and children within the household. We also created up to 3 control non-farming households matched for spatial comparability, and we did that using the 2011 census of population. And here are just the figures for the farming cohort and the control cohort. So as I said, all analysis was conducted using de-identified data from the ADUC dataset, which is held in the SAIL data bank. And just to emphasize this a little bit, all of the individuals that were analysed live within the households that we analysed. So for example, looking at these bullet points here, we analysed 49,715 farming individuals living within 18,135 farming households. A little bit about the results of our research. So here are the results that we published in the Data Insight last year. And the focus was on the socio-demographic characteristics of the farming cohort compared to our control group. So the spatially comparable non-farming households. We found that there was no notable overall age and gender difference between the groups. So if we focus on age, firstly in the top table, for the farming household members, if we consider all ages, the average age was 43.13 compared to the control group, which was 43.32. So very, very minor difference there. And then if we focus on gender, if we look at males, for example, 53% of the farming household members were male compared to 49% of the control group members being male. We're looking at the household structure. We, again, just to emphasize, compared households claiming the single payment scheme 2010 subsidy compared to the control group. The light bar on these bar charts being for the farming households and the darker bar being for the non-farming control group. We found that farming households were less likely to contain a single occupant. So 15% of the farming households were likely to contain a single occupant compared to 30% of the control group. But the farming household were more likely to contain one couple with children. So that's 39% of the farming cohort compared to 25% of the control group. Something else we considered was household size. So we found that farming households had a larger household size with an average of 2.82 occupants compared to, which is shown here, compared to 2.28 in the control group. We sort of narrowed it down to single occupancy households for a bit of further descriptive analysis. And we found that where a household did consist of single occupant, farming households were more likely to be a single male than the control group. So and that's for each age group, if you see what I mean. So for the 16 to 64-year-olds, if we had a farming household of a single occupant, 70% of those were male compared to 57% of them being male in the control group, and a similar trend with the 65 and over age group as well, being more common to be male in the farming household. We also considered the other household types, which is a census variable. And we found that when we narrowed it down to the other household type households, 31% of these, so looking at the bottom row here, 31% of these farming households contained 2 or more families compared to 19% for the control group, so considerably higher. When we look at the one family, very much the same percentage there, same proportion. We looked at marital status. So this is focusing on individuals residing as a couple. So when we narrowed it down to that group of people, we found that compared to non-farm rural households, so compared to the control group, farming households were more likely to be married or in a civil partnership than cohabiting. So 90% of the farming households were more likely to be married or in a civil partnership compared to 82% of the control group. And then the mean age of individuals residing as a couple was higher in the farming households. So 54.9 in the farming households compared to 53.8 in the control group. And same thing as before, the lighter bars being for the farming household and the darker bars representing the control group. And that's just a little summary of the sort of initial analysis that we've been able to do looking at the socio-demographics of farming households compared to the control group. So all of this information is explained in a bit more detail in our first data insight that was released last year for ADR, entitled Are Farm Households Different? Some Evidence from Wales. And there is just a little bit of a summary here. So compared to the non-farming rural households, farm households were approximately 25% bigger, with an average of 2.82 members. The farm households were less likely a single occupant, but when this did occur, they were more likely to be a single male. And they were more often found to have 3 generations living together and more likely to have children present. That's both dependent and adult. Just as a sort of bit of an insight into other research being done. So the ADARC team is conducting further research beyond what I've spoken about today. And all of the research that has been conducted so far and will be conducted falls under 4 themes, which were put together by the ADARC team and stakeholders as well. So the 4 themes being socio-demographics, which is what I focused on so far throughout the PowerPoint, health and well-being, prosperity and resilience, and environment and place. And I've just made a note of 3 bits of research that are currently going on at the moment that I won't be able to speak about in too much detail because we need to have published that before I can speak about any figures, but I can speak at a higher level about it. So firstly, for prosperity and resilience, we are doing some research into off-farm income, and that's using open source ONS data from the ASH tables, ASH being Annual Survey of Hours and Earnings. And we're matching this to individuals from the ADARC data set using OC codes from the 2011 census of population. And we're looking at average household income that is generated off farm, so separate to their job on the farm. Also under prosperity and resilience is another bit of research that we have now completed the initial stages for. So a data insight is due to be released next month for that, which we will explore further at a later date. But this is comparing the highest level of qualification for individuals whose main occupation is farming compared to other people in the household where their main occupation is something other than farming. So comparing the two, even if they've grown up in the same household, whether their main occupation being farmer has a correlation with their highest level of education. Also, another piece of research is under the environment and place theme, and that's looking at agri-environment schemes. So today I've spoken about those in receipt of the Single Payment Scheme 2010, but there are other subsidies available to farmers, and this includes agri-environment schemes. So this piece of research from the 3rd bullet point focuses on the socio-demographic and farm business characteristics of those in receipt of agri-environment payments only, and then single payment scheme payments only, or a combination of the two, to see whether there are different types of farms and farming households claiming different types of subsidies or different combinations of subsidies. A little bit more about the ADARC project in general and sort of where the project is going. The aim of the project, as I said earlier, is to create a research-ready data set in each UK nation. So our sort of progress with this is we've been able to create metadata and a user guide, as well as research priorities for our data sets in both England and Wales, to be made available to researchers very, very soon. And we have an ambition to build a network of AdArc users, which feeds in nicely to an opportunity we had earlier this year, which was to be included in the ADR UK Research Fellowship 2024, where a number of applicants applied to use the AdArc data for their own research. It has not been released yet who has been successful, but I know that successful fellows will be announced at some point later this year. Also, we are currently inviting interested parties to contact us for potential research collaborations using the dataset. So if there's anything I've said today that you think you know someone who might be interested in the project or using the dataset, I'll put my contact details on the next slide. And we are exploring funding and working models for collaboration for the future of the project. This is just a slide of various links that you might find useful. So there's the AdArc mailbox, as well as my email address at the top. AdArc has its own website, so we've got the AdArc website there. A link to our user guides and data dictionaries for England and Wales, and then the ADR UK website at the bottom. And that's everything from me. So thank you very much.